welcome to the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? We're in a garden in the middle of Africa somewhere. And, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I posted this video of one of our elders kind of talking about Ubuntu. And you were like, who is he? Where is he? What's his name? And actually, at that time, I had no idea either. But as fate would have it, as the ancestors would have it, as the Most High would have it, he came to Kenya and he is here with me. And, you know, he's even written books because you guys were like, does he have more knowledge? So we're going to get into all of this. We're going to find out everything about him. I know you guys wanted to know where can you get more of his material. So let's introduce Brother Joshua. Thank you so much for coming on the Dr. Mumbi Show.
Fantastic. And thank you for having me on your show. I've been following you also in my own way. But,
amazing.
As nature has it.
Yes.
Boom. Here is me. Here is you. And this is truth.
You know what? So I saw that Ubuntu. You did that Ubuntu recording that you did. You had this like leather jacket on.
Yeah.
And
I'm a biker.
Oh,
I also
really?
do bike. Yeah, I live fast. I
love it.
Yes, I'm a musician. I'm a biker. And, I'm just living life to the full.
I love it.
No regrets. No regrets.
I love it. I always say like live your life to the fullest. But you're also a pastor. Maybe you can introduce yourself briefly to my audience.
Yeah, I've done pastoring work. I'm a graduate of Andrews University, Michigan, US of A. From Solusi also hold 2 degrees behind my back, and pastored Zimbabwe, Botswana, a bit of Namibia, South Africa, did London and US and back. But basically I've spent lots of my times around the religious corners. And what pushed me to where I am now is the negligence of the church on dealing with social issues, and particularly also the misunderstanding on cultural education.
Yes.
So I decided to do a bit of research, and that led me to the starting of my writing and starting to questioning things and looking for new paradigms.
So, you know, in a lot of the religions of today, we find that African spirituality is kind of kicked out. And I heard you mentioning it in the sermon you just said, where we almost have to give up being African in order to be some of these different dimensions. Where do we fit in as African youth with, you know, who are thinking, who are seeking, you know, to know the deep workings of this world? Where does our spirituality fit into the paradigms that are available?
We are fortunate. We are unfortunate. We are fortunate in that the knowledge is there. We are unfortunate because the knowledge is an oral tradition.
Yeah.
And most of the oral tradition, I mean, our forefathers, our grandfathers, our aunties and grandmothers who are still in the village, they are an incubation of serious warehouse of knowledge.
Yeah.
In fact, when an old woman, an old person dies, the whole village must mourn, because the library has caught fire.
Yeah.
You have actually the library has gone missing.
Yeah.
We needed, the solution for me would be our graduates. We the graduates,
yes.
We needed to take holiday time, go back to the villages, and literally start being stenographers.
Yes.
Sit down with our own people, collecting information. And our knowledge base the white people are not going to come here
and get our knowledge
do
for
that.
us.
We
No,
needed to have an intentional harvesting of that knowledge, from pharmaceuticals to political and governance systems to food and diets, for example, menus. And imagine in Africa, for example, if we can have one African restaurant where you can say Kenya, Namibia.
Yes, the
beautiful
fish,
concept
the
where
nyama
from South Africa to there's nothing. Otherwise, we have Nando's, we have Chicken Lickens, we have McDonald's, and people who are invading our spaces and giving us plastic food as if we don't have our own indigenous menu. So we needed to have an intentional harvesting of indigenous knowledge, packaging it, and then being able to put it on the market with value to us as Africans.
Yes. So now, okay, when you talk of our traditional knowledge, who was God to our forefathers?
The beautiful part is that Jesus and the devil, their names don't appear in African languages throughout, unless they are actually adverbs or names that are imposting S. But originally, we don't have the name Jesus, we don't have the name devil. What we have, however, in every African tribe is the name God.
Yes,
so
that's
it simply means that etymologically speaking, every ethnic group in Africa has had an experience with this being, Nyame, Umkopon, Guy, whoever he is. And if you go back to those cultures and find out from a language and practices, you would find information that will tell, for example, in the Victoria Falls, Nyame, who is a great snake, that actually lives in the basin but goes up in the air, coils up, and makes it rain everywhere else, and etc. So we understand actually God who controls weather in that thing. And when we have in the symbol of a snake, there is not just a snake as of an animal, which could be devilish in Christian spaces, but actually looking at wisdom, we're looking at healing, we're looking at everything. And so for me, we've allowed the European to interpret our own narrative. And we needed to take our own narrative and say, no. Actually, when you talk about Msikawano,
yes,
we are talking about the one who created people. That's his name in Shona.
Yeah.
Yes. And so when you begin to look at our own languages, we actually have descriptive names of who God has been to all our African nationals.
You're speaking my language. And you know what? You even mentioned narrative. You know, I'm all about owning our narrative, changing our narrative, because I think, now that we're coming into that part where we are seeking a renaissance as an African people, our own identity, having come here. It's too late sometimes to go back. So we kind of have to use what we have here. What would you say about how do we reclaim our narrative, and how have we lost our narrative?
I think the beautiful part is, look at what is happening right now.
I know.
You know, who thought 10, 15 years ago that actually black children would have access to a camera and a microphone and begin to speak and share information at that level? So I don't want to undermine social media in as much as there is mainstream media, which is of course controlled and governed by the funders and etc. But I'm glad that our children are waking up to discover that not all truth is there. That most of it is propaganda, however. So firstly is to correct our thinking. And secondly, maybe it is when we collect this information, as I said earlier on, to begin to infuse and inculcate this information into our academic institutions, into our hospitals. We don't need to be cutting our women. The traditional methods of child delivery. How about training traditional midwives? And we can actually regroup ourselves. Giving birth to children is not a sickness.
No,
it's natural. Animals do it every day. But unfortunately, human beings have taken it as a disease.
And then with a C-section, and then it takes months to recover. Women.
Whereas in African tradition, when a woman is pregnant at 3-4 months, we pull you away from everybody else. We put you in your own hut. The old women massage you and check on you every time and etc. Until you deliver. Another 3-4 months, you deliver. So in fact, with that policy in place, even the concept of leave days must speak to our African traditions. That a woman who is pregnant needs a year off from work. Switzerland and Sweden has adopted that.
They do that.
So for me, the West is actually responding to what we've always known as tradition. But unfortunately, our greatest problem, Mumbi, ask me what is it? What is it? Politicians and first degree students who are holding middle management positions. They stand there to protect the system with everything that they have.
And they will do whatever it takes to protect the system.
Ask me why. Why? Because they see themselves as the next group of colonizers.
Oh, that's depressing. But they're like this, like us.
But inside, they're coconuts.
Oh my gosh.
The knowledge base that they've received, they've learned how to sip wines and put on
what they
call the bow tie functions, etc. And walk around. They're being told by these white guys, you are better off. You're not like them. And they feel, and they are there now as watchmen to make sure no black person escapes the pangs of colonialism, because they are now becoming the typical beneficiaries. So the politician is there being sponsored by the European to run the politics with the middle management who is there to be delivering services. So what do you find? It's corruption. What is corruption? When two people are discussing money that belongs to a third party. So the colonialist himself and the corruptor and the corruptee are discussing money that belongs to the taxpayer, and the taxpayer is not there. Who says they will not be corrupt?
Of course they will. There's no one to hold them accountable. But now, like seriously, there's such a hunger for us to be liberated, and we keep talking about those are first liberation. Like in Kenya, I don't know about in Zimbabwe.
Mau, I've read the Mau Mau.
So we had the Mau Mau was like our first liberation.
In Zimbabwe.
Okay.
And then in South Africa.
When we got rid of the first dictators, that first class, we called that the second liberation. But even then, we were never fully free because they got us up here. So there's a lot of talk of the third ultimate liberation. Will it happen in our lifetime?
The problem with that fake understanding of liberation is that it's not liberation. If it must be fought for, if it must be negotiated. In fact, we have changed the hyenas with foxes. We simply removed the white people and put black people who assumed white positions. The police is still there. The prisons are still there. The system is still there. And the best person to run a colonial system is a colonizer. And for us to think that a black person sitting on a colonial system can liberate us from the colonizer, I hope you can hear the clicking of words. We are running in circles. So what are we looking at exactly? We're looking at, in fact, let me be radical. Damn the system.
Damn the system.
Damn the
Yes.
system. They say if you do such and such, your economy will collapse. We don't even own this economy.
Yeah.
It's the multinationals that are owning the economy.
Yes,
So even if they kwacha, the puller, the shilling can go up and down, who really suffers at the end of the day? Whose business is being protected? So we needed maybe to re-engineer indigenous banking systems, indigenous insurance system. Instead of putting your money in the bank, start organizations of young people buying cattle and etc. At the end of the year, one cow gives you another cow, 100% return. Put 1,000 shillings in the bank. You come back, you have 600 left. The rest is bank charges. So what are we looking at? So even our monetary system, our education system, we needed our universities to start being frank that you are producing Africans for Africans.
Yes.
You're producing medicine for Africans.
Yeah.
You're producing industry and manufacturing for Africans. Then we can also harvest our indigenous knowledge again. I come again.
Yeah.
And put it into mainstream. The Chinese people sell those beautiful vases for millions of
Yeah.
That's indigenous knowledge.
Yeah.
So who said that our things cannot also be beneficiated to a level where we can actually call a premium price on them?
Yes. I mean, and okay, we unfortunately we must wind up because but you've mentioned so much. There's so much to talk about because 90% of our artifacts are actually in foreign museums and foreign, and I think because we're so disconnected from our culture, we don't understand the importance
The
of
value.
having them. And
The value. How much money have those foreign countries made out of tourism? And by the way, if we are civilized, if you steal something that belongs to another nation, it's high time we look at the British government and the European museums. Please just return those artifacts.
Yes.
To and we don't want the artifacts only, plus a percentage of the money that you collected over these years. That's reparation.
Yes.
That's reparation.
Yes.
So yeah, we need this in the justice system, that whoever took our artifacts and they've benefited from them, it's not
must
right.
have to get them back. So now what happens to that? What happens to that level? How do we shift that level that is holding back the total liberation of our people, those gatekeepers?
The gatekeepers, there are two ways of going about it. Education is one way. But I fear to announce that if the person in power now does not take the clarion call, which we are giving them now, there will be no way until the poor people, the lower class people, finally take the law unto themselves.
Oh yes, and that time is coming. That time
They will
is
be
coming.
swept away. I want to tell you the truth. Look at what happened to Ceausescu's. Look at what has happened all civilizations that don't listen to the people.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time.
Yes.
Even apartheid.
Yes.
Even the whites, when they were in Kenya here, they never thought that
They never, ever.
their party would stop.
No.
But the day it stopped, we don't want to know how it happened. We don't know how many people were chopped off and etc.
Yes.
But we are still in the space of conversation. So we're saying if you're a political leader, if you're an economist, please start looking at the poverty of your people and start finding solutions that directly impact the changes. And if you don't, the poor people will finally win.
They always win. They always win. Where can people find you? Where can people find you?
If you find her, you have found me. She has become my new friend in
Yes,
Kenya
we're
here.
friends,
And
yes.
I think we will be able to do anything in the northern and eastern Africa here.
Yes, absolutely.
Mumbi will represent us. I'm down south in South Africa,
Yeah.
but my social media handles are all working from Twitter to Instagram
I'll list them
to Facebook.
all in the description.
Yes.
And these books, where can people find them?
They're in South Africa.
Okay.
The
Do you
main,
have them on Amazon?
I've not yet. Again, these are white spaces.
Yeah.
We are still trying to. I've applied and lots of.
Yeah, it's
papers
very
to fill in.
complicated, yeah.
But that's not going to stop us. They're
Yes.
available.
Yes.
So they can inbox us. I'll send a box to you.
Yes.
Then those who can write to you directly, or they can write to South Africa. My office can actually distribute them.
So what is maybe you can just tell us briefly what each one is
Women in
about.
the kitchen, women in positions of power. There's no way a woman can be cooking in the kitchen and she fails to cook a relationship. How often do you clean up your dustbin? And why is it that you find it difficult to clean up your own life? This book is a practical guide as you are cooking in the kitchen and baking. How long do you also bake relationships? From your husband to your wife to your children and your grandmothers.
Wow.
It's a practical guide, literally, of having a conversation
Wow,
in the kitchen. Ultimately,
yeah.
you write an epitaph for yourself.
Whoa.
Shopping skills is a guide for young people who go shopping. When you go shopping, what must you do? Don't eat on the shelf. That's sex before marriage. If you break it, consider it yours.
Yes.
That's accountability.
Yes.
You have enough stock. Don't show. Don't display what you're not selling. Fashion and etc. So it's quite an interactive.
Don't display what you're not selling.
Yeah. This one's nice. And all insist on quality.
Yes.
And issues of milk and etc. We buy last when we are leaving the shop. But a guide for young people in the shops. And this one, so you want to be the master, the 6 people you find in your life, the Good Samaritan story, the thief, the murderer, the religious person, how do you respond to life when you find people lying on the side of the road and you running a breakdown service on the highway of life? That's you. Going places in the spirit, this was my bridge between my experiences. I was traveling between Christianity and finding cultural roots. So I started asking questions here. Is Christianity working? Are we not worshiping a white man instead of worshiping God? What is the difference between Eurocentric religion and African spirituality? This is actually a handbook. I would suggest you really need to stop going to church for about 3-4 months and go through this book. Otherwise, it will confuse you. You might end up beating up your own pastor. But
I love it. Oh my gosh, this is speaking to my heart. This is absolutely amazing. All the descriptions are behind. Please go ahead and follow him on Facebook. You can find him on. We'll put everything below. We'll also put where you can get the books. Unfortunately, it's too soon when I'm coming to the US. Otherwise, I would have come with some. But we will definitely organize the next time we're in the US. We'll let you know when our brother Joshua is in the US. He does travel there a lot, because I'm telling you, a lot of you guys have been saying that, where are the African thinkers? Where are the African revolutionaries? We are here. We're back. We're on ancestral time. Amazing things are happening. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.